How to survive in coastal bluffs. Surviving in coastal bluffs involves navigating a rugged and often precarious terrain where cliffs and steep slopes meet the sea. This environment presents unique challenges, including exposure to wind, erosion, and sudden changes in weather. Number 10. Preparation and equipment. Understand the environment. Terrain and vegetation. Coastal bluffs are characterized by steep, elevated landforms that drop off to the sea. Vegetation may be sparse and adapted to salt and wind, including grasses, shrubs, and hardy trees. The terrain can be unstable, with loose rocks and potential for landslides. Climate conditions. Coastal bluffs experience variable weather, including strong winds, salt spray, and sudden storms. Temperature can range from mild to extreme depending on the season. Be prepared for rapid changes in weather and high humidity. Essential gear. Clothing. Dress in layers to manage fluctuating temperatures. Use moisture-wicking base layers, insulating mid-layers, and a windproof, waterproof outer layer to protect against rain and strong winds. Footwear. Wear sturdy, waterproof boots with good ankle support and traction to handle uneven and slippery surfaces. Accessories. Bring a hat, gloves, and a scarf or neck gaiter to protect against wind and chill. Survival gear. Shelter. Choose or build a shelter that provides protection from wind and rain. In coastal areas, find a location that is not prone to flooding or landslides. Sleeping gear. Use a sleeping bag rated for the temperature range and a sleeping pad for insulation from the cold ground. Fire starting tools. Carry waterproof matches, a lighter, and fire starters. A fire steel can also be helpful for starting fires in damp conditions. Number 9. Building and maintaining shelter. Choosing a location. Site selection. Avoid building near the edge of bluffs due to the risk of erosion and landslides. Look for stable, flat areas that are protected from strong winds and high tides. Ensure that your site is not prone to flooding during high tides or storms. Site preparation. Clear any debris and stabilize the ground if necessary. Create a solid base for your shelter to prevent it from shifting or collapsing. Building the shelter. Natural shelters. Utilize natural features such as rock overhangs or caves if available. These can provide excellent protection from wind and rain. Constructed shelters. Build a temporary shelter using available materials like branches, seaweed, and driftwood. Ensure that the shelter is well secured and insulated against the elements. Maintaining the shelter. Regular inspections. Check for any damage to the shelter regularly and make repairs as needed. Ensure that it remains secure and dry. Ventilation. Maintain proper ventilation to avoid condensation inside the shelter, which can lead to damp conditions and discomfort. Number 8. Navigating and traveling. Travel techniques. Move cautiously. When navigating coastal bluffs, move slowly and carefully to avoid slipping or falling. Use hiking poles or a walking stick for added stability on uneven terrain. Avoid cliff edges. Stay away from the edges of bluffs to reduce the risk of accidental falls or erosion. Use established trails or safe routes when available. Hazards to watch for. Erosion and landslides. Be aware of the risk of landslides and erosion, particularly after heavy rain. Avoid areas that appear unstable or prone to shifting. Rising tides. Monitor tide schedules and avoid traveling near the water's edge during high tide or stormy weather. Number 7. Finding food and water. Food sources. Foraging. Coastal bluffs may offer limited foraging opportunities. Look for edible seaweeds, shellfish, and coastal plants. Ensure proper identification to avoid toxic species. Fishing and hunting. If equipped and trained, fishing along the coast or hunting seabirds can provide food. Follow local regulations and practices for sustainable harvesting. Water sources. Collecting rainwater. Rainwater collection is essential in coastal environments. Use containers to catch and store rainwater for drinking. Purification. Always purify collected water using filters, purification tablets, or by boiling to ensure it is safe to drink. Coastal water may be contaminated with salt and other pollutants. Number 6. Staying warm and safe. Managing cold and wind. Layering. Use layered clothing to manage body temperature and protect against wind chill. Adjust layers based on activity level and weather conditions. Shelter. Stay in your shelter during severe weather to stay warm and dry. Ensure that it is well insulated and protected from the wind. Safety measures. Avoid hypothermia. Recognize symptoms of hypothermia, such as shivering, confusion, and numbness. Warm up gradually and seek shelter immediately if symptoms occur. Prevent injuries. Be cautious of sharp rocks, unstable ground, and slippery surfaces. Wear appropriate footwear and use trekking poles for stability. Number 5. Health and hygiene. Personal hygiene. Hand washing. Practice good hygiene by washing hands regularly, especially before eating. Use hand sanitizer or wipes if water is limited. Waste management. Dispose of waste properly to minimize environmental impact. Use waste disposal techniques that prevent pollution and contamination. Health precautions. Avoid illness. Protect yourself from illnesses by avoiding exposure to contaminated water and ensuring proper food handling. In case of injuries, use first aid skills and seek medical help if needed. Monitor health. Regularly check for signs of illness or injury. Stay hydrated and well-nourished to maintain health and energy. Number 4. Navigating extreme weather. Wind and rain strategies. Protective gear. Wear windproof and waterproof clothing to shield yourself from strong winds and rain. Use a rain cover for your gear and shelter to keep everything dry. Shelter management. Ensure your shelter is anchored and secured against strong winds. Use rocks or other weights to stabilize your shelter and prevent it from being blown away. Weather monitoring. Stay informed. Monitor weather forecasts and be prepared for sudden changes. Use a weather radio or mobile app to stay updated on conditions. Emergency planning. Have a plan in place for severe weather events, such as storms or flooding. Know your evacuation routes and have emergency supplies ready. Number 3. Emergency and survival skills. Emergency signals. Use signaling devices. Carry a whistle, mirror, or signal mirror to alert rescuers if needed. Learn how to use these devices effectively to increase visibility. Create visible markers. Use bright-colored clothing or markers to make your location more noticeable. Establish a clear area for emergency signaling. Survival techniques. First aid skills. Learn basic first aid techniques for treating injuries, bites, and other medical issues. Familiarize yourself with CPR and other life-saving skills. Emergency shelter. Be prepared to create a makeshift shelter if your primary shelter is compromised. Use available materials to construct a temporary refuge. Number 2. Environmental awareness. Respect wildlife. Avoid encounters. Maintain a safe distance from wildlife and avoid attracting animals with food or waste. Understand local wildlife behavior and avoid disturbing their habitat. Protect ecosystems. Minimize your impact on coastal ecosystems by avoiding trampling vegetation and disturbing nesting sites. Follow guidelines for sustainable interaction with nature. Ecological impact. Minimize impact. Practice leave no trace principles to reduce your environmental footprint. Avoid littering and respect the natural landscape. Sustainable practices. Use natural resources responsibly and consider the long-term impact of your activities on the coastal environment. Number 1. Long-term survival and adaptation strategies. Seasonal adjustments. Adapt your survival strategies based on seasonal changes. Prepare for changes in weather and resource availability throughout the year. Resource management. Manage your resources wisely, including food, water, and fuel. Plan for resupply and ration resources to ensure long-term survival. Building resilience. Develop skills. Continuously improve your survival skills and knowledge. Practice techniques and adapt to new challenges to enhance your resilience. Community support. If possible, collaborate with others to share resources and skills. Working together can improve your chances of survival and provide additional support.